Okay, so we'll get going. So it's bang on for 5:10, so thank you for staying till the end of the Thursday. I know we're standing between everybody and beer, so thank you for coming. So today we're going to look at identity for life, higher education and beyond. So kind of the obligatory, who are we? So I'm Paul Heaney, CTO of Proof ID. Apologies, we're both British and we've both got Northern English accents, so we'll try and talk slowly. If you can't understand, shout, because it's definitely us, not you.
Thanks, Paul. So I'm Andy Rutter from Proof ID. I'm a Senior Account Manager there. And today we're going to cover the journey of the future for a student in higher education. We're going to look at the 5 core stages of a digital learner and the business benefits and the experience, how we enhance that experience by using technology and verified credentials. We're going to cover 5 core stages from initial interest, application, studying, graduating and becoming an alumni, and hopefully returning for future study, therefore becoming fun identity for life in higher education.
Sorry.
Really? So it starts with the applicant looking around various research institutions, looking for where they want to study. And they'll do their own research on that. They'll attend open days. They'll attend taster sessions. That could be online, it could be remotely. We need to make sure that that process is as frictionless as possible.
Okay, so from the technology perspective, what does that mean? So a learner, 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, they're looking at where to go to university. They look at the website. So the first thing they do is they sort of express an interest. So I want to go to the University of Manchester perhaps. And we'll let them start to create a basic profile at that university. So that might be sort of logging in or providing some initial details through logging via social media. So that might be Facebook, TikTok or whatever of the future. So we've got that initial details. We're going to start to create a profile for that student or for that learner. And we'll start to issue and start to track them by issuing a digital verifiable credential. So we'll issue that into a wallet, say, this is a student, we know it's Fred, and they're interested in the University of Manchester. They then attend the open day and we start to get a bit more information about them. They're interested in studying chemistry. So we start to update that verifiable credentials. We have more verified claims as a wallet. This is somebody who's interested in chemistry. And ultimately, as Andy said, they start to access taster content or sample content, because we realise taster content makes no sense in the US. So sample content, so that might be a lab, a lecture. It might be some online sample course. So they use that verifiable credential then to access that content and show that they've consumed that, and we can then start to build up that progressive profile of the individual and see how they want to engage in the university and what their interests are. And we don't need to keep prompting them then for login credentials. We've got that from the very beginning with that verifiable credential that they can use to access all that data.
So the student then had a look, they've decided which universities they're going to apply to. Might not be just one, might be multiple universities. They're going to go through the application process. They're going to submit their application. And hopefully, they'll receive some offers of study back.
So when we start to do that application, we want to actually know, well, you provided some details. Are you really Fred Bloggs? So at this stage, we're going to do the identity proofing. So we're going to make sure that they are who they say they are. So we're going to get them to perhaps scan a passport or a driving licence. But the big problem we've got at this age is you've got 15, 16, 17-year-olds applying to university. Do they have a driving licence? Do they have a passport? In the US, it's more prevalent that you have a driving licence at 16. In the UK, most people don't. So you've got a scan of your passport. You've got a scan of your birth certificate. But then, is that really good enough? So you can start to actually do additional proofing by saying, well, you've been vouched for by a teacher that's known you for 6 or 7 years, or a doctor, to actually bring in that initial set of claims and proofing that you are who you say you are. And we could then issue that stronger credential that we then use to start to engage even further as we go through the university. We then, as we've issued that offer, we can issue the offer then into the wallet, so when the student turns up on the first day, they can actually bring that offer with them. And within the university, we're going to add that the learner's details now into the student record system. So up until now, we've been tracking them in the CRM perhaps, or in some other application system. We're now going to add this into the student record system because this is somebody who has now accepted has now got an offer to the university, so will potentially be coming to, or will hopefully be enrolling.
Then, as does happen in modern day world, student, they decide they need a holiday before the hard work starts, don't they? They're going to take a gap year. So they're going to be either, trekking around the forests of Borneo, backpacking across Australia, even doing a tour of Europe. Fast forward, 12 months later, they're back from the travels, they've packed all the goods up that they need for university life, and they've headed up to the campus. There's a number of processes that we need to go through to make sure that is successful on day one and they have the perfect user experience. And those processes could start 7 to 10 days before day one. They need to continue with the processes right through the study period. And even if that student has to change course for whatever, this processing needs to take place.
So, Dan, they said sort of, in an ideal world, everything will be provisioned just in time when the student comes to access those resources, but universities have been around a long time, they've acquired a lot of systems, they've acquired a lot of existing process, and things start to need to be provisioned ahead of time. So 7 days, or a pre-configured time, but 7 days is fairly typical, will actually go to provision their account into the relevant system. So the IGA system will have read from student records, say, this person is due to start in 7 days' time, is a undergraduate and is been offered a chemistry course, so we'll create him his AD account, his email, access to the chemistry resources. But we're going to create that in a disabled status because he's not here yet. It's a security risk if we enable it, so we're going to create that in a disabled form. Student turns up on the first day, staggers into the sports hall because they've already started their pre-university drinking, and they then sort of, in the old days, you've had to bring your raft of documents with you, your passport and your driving licence and your birth certificate, etc. Now they can just bring their wallet, their digital wallet with their verified credential for their offer in that wallet, so they can stagger into the sports hall and then just tap a card reader in the sports hall to verify and share that offer, and sort of the admissions officer can say, yes, you are Fred Bloggs, perfect. Welcome to the university. We don't need to see any more proofing because we've already done that identity proofing of who you are and you've now got those claims in the wallet. We've got to issue them a digital ID card. So in the past, we'd give you a physical ID card that the student's going to lose, they've got to leave at home, they've got to use de-ice the car in the winter and it's got to get scuffed. And so we've got to issue a digital ID into the wallet so they can use that to gain access to buildings on campus, to the various lecture theatres, to the labs, to the resources that they are allowed access to, both physical and digital. We're going to then actually at this point enable their account so they can start to use these resources, they can start to study, or come back to it in 6 months' time and realise, I'm not doing any studying for 6 months, I better rush. Once they're in that studying stage, then we're going to use continual dynamic authorization. So we're not just going to grant them access on day one and say, perfect, you enter that, you've authenticated, continue to access the resources. We're going to use sort of continual dynamic authorization, say, is this a usual pattern? Is this a resource that you're currently allowed to access? Does it fit your usual pattern? So a student at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, that looks suspicious to me. It's more likely to be sort of late at night when they're rushing to meet those deadlines. The students are then going to perhaps want to be able to request additional resources. So they've got the birthright resources, but there's some additional content out there that, I'd like to be able to access the sports hall. I want to play badminton, so I want to be able to go into a self-service portal and request access to the badminton courts. And then that can then update their credentials and say, your badge will now, your smart badge, your wallet will allow you access into the badminton court. Students do have a habit of changing their mind. We're humans after all, that I've come in to do chemistry. It's not really my thing, I'm going to go and switch to dance. So I'm going to remove access to the chemistry labs and all those dangerous chemicals you've got in the room, and now give you access to the dance studio and give you the up-to-date access so it's much more secure. You've not got access to unauthorised resources, so it's very easy to adapt as the student goes through their journey at the university.
So the student will have multiple personas as they go through their journey. They may take a year in industry, they may study abroad, they may study at a different university that's affiliated to your university. There's a number of different scenarios. They could take up employment within the university, become a staff member. They will have multiple personas, there's no doubt about it, and we need to be able to manage those safely, effectively and securely.
So students, they have a habit of going to study abroad, to go and do additional studies with either a foreign university, so here the University of Nice, or going to study at a partner university, so go from Harvard Business School to Harvard University perhaps. So you need to take those claims and be able to prove who you are. So today you've got to get transcripts, you've got to get proof that, oh, you are really studying at the University of Manchester, you are really at level 3 French or whatever the foreign language requirement is, and you have got this level of credits and this level of certification. So by having those in your wallet, you can then have verified claims that you have studied these courses, you have got to this level of attainment on those courses. So the home university, so the University of Manchester, issues those claims and keeps tracking of where you're up to in the wallet, and you then turn up in the University of Nice, and rather than have to bring those transcripts and somebody then have to ring Manchester and say, is this definitely Fred? Have they done these courses? Then you can share those credentials from the wallet, and the University of Nice can then validate those and say, yes, those are genuine credentials, those were issued by Manchester, and you really have got to the expressive modern dance level 3 or whatever. Having no idea about dance, I'm completely making this up at this point. So they then sort of have potentially access do industrial experience years. So we're going to want to perhaps restrict access to some of those resources. So you go out for the year into industry, we're going to restrict access to some of the more sensitive resources you've got access to. So yeah, we don't want you to use it in the dance studio because you might damage the floor or something whilst, or malicious users might damage the floor or remove access to digital resources that they no longer require access to. The other kind of really big challenge in higher education is students have a habit of also becoming staff, that they do some lab supervision, they do a small summer job, and they're now a member of staff. So how do you give a staff member, how has a student also got staff access? That usually these are kind of mutually exclusive. In the traditional world and today, we've worked with customers who said we must have a single identity, we must try and get this into, shoehorn this into one login, and just all hell breaks loose. It's these people spend years trying to achieve this, and it's not usually great. But using verifiable credentials, we're able to add additional personas, we're able to add additional claims. You are also a student, you are also a member of staff. And when you're using those credentials, you can actually say, I'm using my staff credential. I want to do this operation with my staff hat on rather than my student hat on. So it's very easy for the individual, the user, the human to actually say, I'm doing this and I'm doing this with hat X. And we've got, oh no, I thought we got to the point where the clicker broke.
So 3, 4, 5 years later, students finally completed all the hard work and they're going to graduate. They're going to get that degree certificate. We need to transition them into alumni, and then hopefully they'll go on to work in their chosen field of work somewhere in the world.
So Today, you get issued your paper degree certificate, you file it away safely in the loft, under your bed, somewhere that you've got absolutely no idea where it is. It's, I think, pretty much everyone, you apply for a job and say, you want my degree? Ooh, where is it? Is it home? Is it in the parents' house? Is it, yeah, where is it? But we're now going to issue those degree certificates, or issue a digital copy of that degree certificate as well. We're still going to have paper copies because some people want to print it and stick it on the wall and show how brilliant they are. But we're going to issue that digital degree certificate as well, so you can easily present that and share that with your future employers who can verify that and say, yes, you did graduate from the University of Manchester with a degree in chemistry. Great things about this is it's easy for the individual to share that with their employer, but also it's very easy for the employer to verify that degree certificate and say it hasn't been tampered with. This is actually a genuine degree from the University of Manchester. It's not one I found online and put in my name and faked it. So we're going to issue those degree certificates that are really easy to use. We're also going to transition their account to be an alumni or an account and identity for life. So we want to engage and continue engaging with alumni because, well, they've got to donate some money at the end of the day. We've got to keep engagement and we've got to get some funding. We've got to keep that engagement with the individuals. So we're going to give them something for that. So we've got to give them access perhaps to an email address for life. We've got to give them access to discounts on selected resources, or we're going to give them access to some scientific journals perhaps. That these are all fairly common things that people provide. So we've got to transition their account to this alumni status. We've got to cut down the access of what they've got to just what an alumni gets. And the great thing about this is we've actually now got a strong credential. We've got a strong series of claims about the individual. They can actually use that to identify themselves elsewhere. So we've heard talk this week of people sort of in Scandinavia using bank ID as a way to identify and authenticate themselves with lots of services. Some countries are happy with a central ID system. Being from the UK, we seem to be adverse to a central ID system. We don't want the government to issue one, but we're very happy to assert we came from the University of Manchester. We studied here. We spent 3 of our best years of our life studying here. We're going to use that to continue to identify ourselves and present who we are in the future, perhaps.
So it could be straight away, could be a number of years later, that individual decides they need to return to study. And it could be in a number of guises. That could be to complete a master's or a PhD, become a research fellow, or it could be to take up a role, or as per the previous slides, it could be any or all of them.
So at this point, the individual is going to come back to the university and say, oh, I've got a degree from you already, or I've got a degree from another university, so I've got a degree from the University of Manchester, and I'm now going to go to the University of York, perhaps. You can present those claims. For this case, we'll go back to, you're coming back to the University of Manchester. You've got to present those claims. You've got to verify them and say, yes, you are Fred, you did graduate from here, and we can see your alumni account. We're now going to reactivate that. We're going to add the additional claims onto there to say you're now studying for a PhD, or you're a researcher, scientist now in the university in the Department of Chemistry because you've decided dance was no good, you're going back to your first love of chemistry. And we'll start to regain, reactivate your account and grant the appropriate authorizations to be able to access the resources that you need to do those roles. So that's kind of the digital journey. So kind of summarising all of this in sort of the student journey, you've got kind of starting on the left as the applicant, all the way through, we kind of see the data being added into the CRM, transitioning once they apply into the student record system, and kind of in the enrolment stage, the identity and access management system start to kick in and provision their accounts and grant all those entitlements. Then all the way through to be able to use those digital claims, the degree certificate, to be able to access your degree and be able to verify that to future employers or to other universities as you progress in your academic career or come back into the same university and take up a job with them. So that's kind of what we see as sort of how to improve the digital journey, how to improve the student journey within a university. So that's kind of brings us up pretty much bang on the 20-minute mark. So I think we've got about 5 minutes for questions if people got questions. I think, and Greg's got a mic.
I've got a mic. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
There's two over here.
Excellent.
Oh, I'm loud. Do you have any advice? Oh. Hello. Do you have any advice on how to do identity proofing of students coming in from other countries, in particular students from China?
I don't think I've got nothing particular on China, but bringing in foreign students is always very challenging because some countries have less verifiable, less identification documents. So bringing people in, especially from India and some African countries, where there's the government record keeping is not centralised; it's kind of localised. So China's the one I'm not necessarily familiar with, but you need to collect as much information as possible and have an identity proofing solution that is able to validate some documents, but there's going to be a mixture of taking existing documents, so a birth certificate or an ID card, but then having some additional attestations from sort of professionals in that country or sort of perhaps even just your parents or your teachers to say this really is a person. But it's a challenging area coming from countries where there's less centralised identity.
Okay. And I had an unrelated question about alumni that in the past we've offered email address forwarding for alumni, and email protocols are making that not possible. Do you have any experience with how to solve that problem for alumni?
So I think our experience has kind of been that a lot of places are moving away from the email address for life. It's sort of that it's not as better, it's not really attractive to new applicants. It's I think a lot of places we've worked with have not necessarily done forwarding, but just had a separate email account, and you've actually had to then log into that email account for life.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across any. Andy, have you that?
No, not really. Not on the email perspective. I mean, as you said, a lot of people are moving away from email for life now. Some universities don't want to have that, and that's a given. But a lot of universities are moving away from that. But what we can do, obviously, as part of that, keeping identity for life alive, is if they do come back to university, you can reuse and open that email address to try and keep your licensing costs down and everything else.
I had a question about the verifiable credential. In my experience, a university might have an enterprise system where a user will create an account that can be used to bootstrap a verifiable credential to say I'm an active student at this university. But then at a certain point, there's a transition where that verifiable credential has to be revoked. And then there's a new verifiable credential to say I'm a graduate and I have a different set of claims. How are you managing that behind the scenes? Is there one verifiable credential that just gets updated over time, or are there new ones issued and other ones revoked throughout this process?
There are new ones issued and existing ones are revoked or have been time bound. So yes, we're not just going to go and change the status, but we'll issue a new sort of affiliation status. Say you're now alumni, and kind of revoke the student status. So kind of be able to then have that audit trail, that tracking of the status of the student through that lifetime, or the individual through the lifetime, and then see when went from, you kind of got that in the status type, we've got the sort of applicant through to offer status, through to enrolled student perhaps, or student, then graduate or alumni, then maybe back to staff, or have multiple claims there. So your current affiliations are student and staff, and then you can, when you present those, which one do I want to share for this particular operation?
Any other questions?
No, I thought the presentation went well for the life cycle. One question I had is, typically you see, during starting school and time you end, technology changes so much, so the reality of a digital wallet even being there. I take myself back to when I graduated, and you look at what was there now, and they don't even remember me. They had to look me up. I was being alumni, so I think it's a great concept. I was just curious what thoughts you had as things changing by the time they graduate. I know you can't plan for the future or crystal ball it, but
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It was something we were discussing earlier this week of what's going to be the holder of the wallet in the future. Today, yes, it's going to be the smartphone because we've all got a smartphone, but yeah, 20 years ago, we didn't have a smartphone. And in the future, we're going to have something else. We're going to have some communication device. And so the conversation got a little bit creepy. We started getting to implants and brain control, and it just goes, ooh. But there's going to be something to progress, and it's kind of by having that as a digital clone that we can then enroll the new device, which might be your implant in your arm or whatever. It's kind of. I'm not sure I want to be kind of pushing implants in the. I'm now very worried what the AI is going to say about implants and.
talk to Elon, right, and see what he did.
Yeah.
All right, Paul and Andy, thank you very much for this excellent talk.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, have a great evening. Enjoy the closing party, 7 to 9 at the Palms Pool Deck.